So mating, nature favors diversity. This is this is a typical pattern of mating area. So here's my queen in her hive, and there's a drone over there in a hive. The drone flying to this congregation area, drone congregation area, and the queen flies there to be mated. And that distance, the distance that the drone flies plus the distance that the queen flies, is the mating distance. And if the mating distance were within 2.5 kilometers, that's about half of matings. And nearly all matings, 90%, happen within this 7.5 kilometers distance. But in my case, within a 7.5 kilometer distance of my queens, I've got something like 300 drone congregation areas and something like 650 other colonies around here that are producing drones to mate with my queen. So it's a lot. And this is a typical sort of setup with numbers that I've seen from some research done. I think it was in the Hope Valley, but basically you've got about 200 colonies providing drones to a drone congregation area. They got about 14,000 drones visiting there, and a queen comes along and mates with 17 lucky drones. Except, of course, it could be anything. It could be 2 drones, or it could be 60. But most people quote 15 to 20 matings. So I've gone with 17. It's possible that that's understating what's normal. But anyway, point is, I can control the queen, but what are the chances that I can influence the drones that she mates with? For me, no chance. I've got 40 odd colonies, but there's no hope. A big bee queen producer with loads and loads of hives, they can dominate the area with their bees and their drones, and they've got more of an influence. Isolated mating stations and instrumental insemination is the only real way to have any control. And the thing that I can do, and the thing that I think everyone else should do, is to kill off your rubbish queens. If you've got horrible bees that sting you all the time, and they swarm lots and they make no honey and they're just rubbish, get rid of the queen, put a good queen in there, and then the drones from that colony are just improving the bees in the area, because if everyone did that, the drones in this congregation area would all be nice, and then the queens that get mated there, well, they've got a better chance of being good. The subject of polyandry, which is multiple fathers, basically, it's quite interesting. There's these things called hyperpolyandrous queens, which were referred to in a paper by Keith Delaplane, Giles Budge is in there too, and others. They did an experiment with, what they did was they inseminated queens and controlled the amount of different types of sperm that they used. So they used, some queens were inseminated with the sperm with 15 different fathers, basically, and 30 and 60. And then they were able to look at what happened to those to the bees and how they performed. And it turns out that the more fathers, the better. So this this is what nature wants. Nature wants bees to be inseminated by multiple drones, and they also want to spread that genetics far and wide. That it's the mixing up of all this genetic material that creates subfamilies within a colony, and each subfamily, which is made up of groups of half sisters, so they've got the same mum, different dads. The more of those you have in a colony, the more chance there is that the bees can cope with whatever comes along, changes in climatic conditions, parasites, diseases, all sorts of things. And they found that the ones that had more polyandry, more dads, they made more brood, they built more comb, and they had lower varroa. So nature wants the queen to be mated many times by many different drones, which is another reason why I'm very much in favor of pumping out as many good drones as we can into our local areas. Finally, on numbers and beekeeping, I keep records so that I can tell how I'm doing and try and improve. So here's some of the things I measure. I measure my winter and summer losses, the amount of honey I get per hive, the percentage that tried to swarm, which is basically making queen cells, and the percentage of swarms that I lost, which is me missing something. And also because I raise queens from grafting, there's the step from grafting to a queen cell. They don't all make it. And then I put a queen cell in a mating nuke. They don't all get mated. So there's a loss at each step here. And I could typically start with 30 grafts, maybe end up with 15 mated queens. And I obviously do, as I said before, the alcohol wash in June, and I'm recording and looking for the queens that manage to keep have colonies that keep the lower numbers of mites, and that's part of my selection process for raising the next generations. I like the ones that have lower mites. So there we go. That's the end of that, and I hope you enjoyed it.